Well, hello, my name is Christopher Scott, and I serve as a small groups pastor of a local church. And in this video, I want to give you some tips about giving tough news, right? 3 tips for delivering tough news and giving tough news to someone. Maybe there's a decision that was made and you have to deliver the news. Maybe you need to have a difficult conversation with someone about a correction that needs to be made, or a decision that was made that negatively affects them. Maybe you're not even the person that made that decision, but you're expected to give the tough news. Maybe you're the person that is making the decision and you're trying to figure out, how do I give that news to someone else, right? So this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips for giving tough news, for delivering tough news, right? So those 3 tips are, number 1, you want to give it in person, okay? Give it in person. Number 2, you want to give an explanation of your reasoning. So why was the decision made, and give an explanation for your reasoning and background behind it. So give the news in person, give an explanation for your reasoning, and then give time to talk it out and have a discussion with the person together. And these are some principles I pulled out of the story of Rehoboam in 1 Kings chapter 12 and 14. So I'm going to read some of that to you, but I wanted to give you those 3 tips ahead of time as we go through the passage. And Rehoboam was a brand new king to the nation of Israel. So David was the king of Israel, and they were strong and united. And then Solomon's the king of Israel. Solomon was the son of David, and they were strong. And then Solomon dies, and Rehoboam becomes king of Israel. And right as he's about to become king, all the nation of Israel gathers to Rehoboam, and they say, we're here to make you king, but we have this one request. We want less work and less taxes, because your dad Solomon, he worked us hard, and he taxed us even harder. And you, as our new king, we just want to ask you for less work and less taxes, which was a reasonable request based on some of the things that Solomon had done. So Rehoboam wisely says, give me 3 days to think this over, and I'll come back to you with my answer. He gets some advice from the older counselors, the younger counselors, and I have a video about how to make tough decisions up there that you can watch about, how he did that. It's about a 10-minute video talking about that, how he makes that tough decision. And now Rehoboam is about to deliver the news to the people. He's taken 3 days to think it over, and we get to read about how he gives this news to the people, right? And there's 3 principles in it about how we can deliver tough news as well as Christians and as leaders, right? So the first principle is that delivering tough news means you want to give it in person. And we read this in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 12. It says, 3 days later, Jeroboam and all of Israel returned to hear Rehoboam's decision, just as the king had ordered. And this is something Rehoboam does well. He doesn't just send them off and say, I'm going to send you, a messenger or a telegram or a tweet or an email. He says, come back and I'm going to tell you my decision, right? He does this well. And that's something that, is good, that he actually does well and he does good. But Rehoboam, he gives that news in person at first, and he tells them, you know what? I don't think I'm going to listen to you all, pretty much is what the text says. And he decides to give them more work, right? So he does that well. The people take off. He does that well, being he met with them in person, told them his decision. The people take off. They decide, whatever, we're down with the dynasty of David going down. And then Rehoboam learns that these people are not being loyal to him. They've decided, since they're not going to listen to their request for less money or less taxes and less work, Rehoboam decides to send kind of his union enforcer up there, or his right-hand man up there. It says in 1 Kings 12, 18 and 19, it says, King Rehoboam sent Adoniram, who was in charge of the labor force, to restore order, but the people of Israel stoned him to death. When this news reached King Rehoboam, he quickly jumped into his chariot and fled to Jerusalem. And to this day, the northern tribes of Israel have refused to be ruled by a descendant of David, right? And so Rehoboam tries to enforce his decision by sending someone else on behalf of him to enforce his decision. So this gets into the part where Rehoboam doesn't do a good job of talking it out in person and giving the tough news in person, right? And there's 2 elements to this, right? Have you ever been the person that has to receive bad news from someone, but that person that's giving you the bad news isn't the person that decided it? It's someone else that you might even know, but they just decided to send that person to tell you? It's not a very good situation. Or maybe you're that person that's been told by your boss to go give some bad news to people when your boss can easily just go talk to them on his or her own, right? So it's a difficult situation. And Rehoboam fails to go and work it out with the people, right? He sends this guy up there. And as we give tough news, there's 4 ways we can give tough news in 2019 when I'm recording this video. The baddest, worst way to give tough news, the baddest way to give news is text message, okay? Just don't ever do bad news by text message. A bad way is email. It's a little bit better than text message because you can at least write paragraphs. A better way is by phone, if you can give tough news by phone, but the best way to do it is to do it in person, right? To do it in person. And as much as possible, you want to give tough news in person and talk about it, give it in person, explain it, talk it out, things like that, okay? That's as much as possible, give it in person, right? So that's the first tip for giving tough news and delivering tough news, is to give it in person. The second tip is give an explanation of your reasoning, right? Give an explanation of your reasoning. We read about giving an explanation of your reasoning in 1 Kings 12, verses 13 and 14, where the people have come to Rehoboam again. They've said, we want to hear your reasoning. What's the deal? Rehoboam says, but Rehoboam spoke harshly to the people, for he rejected the advice of the older counselors and followed the counsel of his younger advisors. He told the people, my father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions. Okay? So, Proverbs says, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. And that's what Rehoboam does here, man. He gives some harsh words and tempers flare. And Rehoboam knew this because that Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Rehoboam's dad is the one that said that. So Rehoboam probably knew it, right? One commentator says, this probably was the most foolish thing that young Rehoboam could have done, right? And so while people might not agree with you, hopefully they will accept what you say and appreciate the fact you're trying to explain your reasoning, right? Because it's easy to kind of attribute motives to people. Well, you decided that because you wanted this. Well, no, that's not at all it. It was this, this, and this, right? So give an explanation of your reasoning to people to help them, right? So first 2 tips we've talked about is give tough news in person, give an explanation of your reasoning of that tough news. And then the third tip, give time to talk it out. It doesn't appear in this story of Rehoboam that there were any chance for the people to kind of discuss the matter or talk it out. Rehoboam just says, this is what my decision is, take it, right? And as king, he could do that, right? He's entitled to that. What he did was not wrong, but it definitely wasn't right, because you got to give people time to talk it out. And sometimes, I think when we make tough decisions, we often say, all right, I'm going to make my decision. There's no discussions about it, because we kind of put on that front and that wall, because we feel like if we do have to listen to people and talk about it, we're going to have to change our decision, or maybe they're going to think there's a chance we're going to change just because we talk about it. But that's not the case at all. In fact, when you give time to talk out stuff in person, it tells people you care enough about them to listen to them, right? Just the simple fact that they know he at least cares what I think. Secondly, it helps the situation when you give time to talk it out in person, because at least the person gets to feel like there's some restoration and healing through the situation because they've had their voice heard, right? Just the fact that they know that you know about their situation and their feelings helps a lot, right? So 3 tips for delivering tough news. Number 1, give tough news in person. Don't ever substitute in-person conversations when giving tough news. Give an explanation of your reasoning behind the decision. And lastly, give time to talk it out, right? So 3 tips to help you deliver tough news. My name's Christopher Scott. I hope this was a helpful video for you as you have to, make tough decisions, but also deliver tough news in person. If you found this video helpful, you can subscribe up there. I got a bunch of videos up there about how to facilitate small group discussions. I'm a small groups pastor, so that's mostly the videos I create on here. So a bunch of small group facilitator tip videos up there. If you're looking to do a verse-by-verse Bible study with a group of people, maybe at work or in your house, I got a video over there about how to do those. And then another set of videos about how to facilitate a small group using a DVD topical teaching. So thanks for watching. I hope to catch you again soon on another video.